All right, everybody. Well, welcome to another episode of Simply Finance with Shane White. I'm stoked today. This is going to be definitely one of my favorite guests on the podcast, Marston Sawyer. I know, you are. He is a man of a lot of things, but most of you, if you've heard his name or seen him, probably know him from his YouTube series, Buttery Bros. Marston, welcome to the show.
Dude, thanks for having me. Sorry it took so long to finally catch up, but it's
Hey,
stoked to be here and talk with you.
I've said this before on here, but I always say the people you want to talk to the most are the busiest. So it makes a ton of sense, and I appreciate you taking the
Yeah.
time because I know you could be doing a lot of other things right now. So thank you
Yeah,
for coming on.
finally back home from a long stint of road trips. So I'm stoked to be home and just kind of settling in now.
Yeah. Well, the one thing I wanted to ask you to like get started. So like you're on a road, you go on road trips. You and your partner always are like traveling, seeing different folks in the fitness industry. When you guys go, I mean, like how much footage must you guys be shooting and coming home with, and like how much time does it take? I mean, I always feel you guys turn your YouTube videos around within days, which is always mind blowing to me because they're long videos. It's not like an 8 minute Casey Neistat vlog. This is like a 30, 40 minute video.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of depends on where we're going and what we're shooting, because like certain trips we go on, we'll get so much more than other ones, just because of who we're with and who we're filming with and stuff. So like we just went to Miami last week to film with Steffi Cohen and Hayden, and that one we got a decent amount of footage on, but it was only a 1 day, like a day and a half shoot. And while we're doing all this stuff, we're sending back proxies of all the footage to our editor that's in Canada. And
Oh,
he's basically doing like a rough edit as we're shooting it. So it's kind of like we're trying to stay ahead of just the mountain of footage. So we're always
yeah.
like, here's a clip, here's a clip, here's a clip. So
Oh, that's
so
smart. So you're like not like totally behind when you get back.
yeah, so he's working on that while we're still shooting. And then it's like we jump from there over to Boston to film with the Comp Train crew. So that was Katrin David's daughter, Amanda Barnhart, Chandler Smith, and Samuel Quant. And just because there's four of them, you're going to get a lot more footage, and we were
Sure.
there for, I
Yeah.
think we were there for like 3 days, and they were just doing a bunch of cool stuff. So we wanted to document as much as possible. And it was 100th episode. So it was pretty special.
Yeah,
And
that's right.
one of
Congratulations.
our Thanks, man. Yeah. So it was one of our most popular episodes early on. It was catching up with the girls at Comtrain Camp. So we thought it would be pretty appropriate to go back there for the 100th episode.
Oh, yeah, that's great.
Uh, so that'll be our next one out right now. And we got just so much footage from that. And I'm sure I'm like overloading the editor right now. And then we went down to Iowa to film with Mallory O'Brien. I don't know if you're
Oh,
familiar with
yeah.
her,
Isn't she
but
the new, like young up and coming?
dude, she's 17 years old and she moves like incredibly well. She like has the physique of like you look at her and you're like, this girl's 17. Like she looks like she could be like 25 with as built as she is and
Yeah.
like with as mature as she is. And we were there for like 2 days watching her do the teen online qualifiers
Okay. Yeah.
because like she's already qualified to go to the semis, and I think she's going to Granite Games, but she's doing this as like a fallback in case she doesn't get out of it. But
Wow.
after watching her, I mean, she won 5 out of the 6 events and she only took third on one of them.
Oh, geez.
So she's
She's
dominant. And
sweeping
I'm
it.
like, dude, and it's unreal. I can't wait to see her actually compete like against some girls, because I think that people are, and if you don't know who she is, you probably don't see her coming. And then you watch her work out and you're like, oh, wow, she doesn't have any holes that I've seen. I mean, I haven't seen her
Wow.
do everything, but she's going to
Yeah.
be an impressive up and comer. So stoked about that. And then we came home for like 8 hours and then went to Gymshark yesterday in Colorado and
Nice.
hung out with the Gymshark crew. And that'll come out probably at the end of this month. So
So you got
it's
like
always kind of,
you got like a backlog now of videos.
yeah. So we've got two and a half shot. Like the Gymshark one won't be a full episode, but it'll feed into like probably like a Murph video that we'll have come out near Memorial
Nice.
Day.
Yeah. Oh, love it. Got it. Yeah. So do you guys just like, I mean, do you have like a calendar together where you guys are just like planning and planning? Or I've heard you say before too, though, that you really don't try to plan too far in advance. You kind of just let things
Dude,
flow and go.
well, I don't know if it's because of like COVID and everything that we got into. It was very hard to plan very far out because everything was
Oh,
changing
true.
so much.
Yeah.
So we didn't really plan too far out as far as like what we were going to shoot, because with CrossFit, you know, they're always changing the rules and everything's kind of always
Right.
in flux, and never really know what the season's going to look like. So we're
Sure.
always kind of, we're very much like planning anything that's like, I don't know, 2 weeks out, you know, that's
Yeah.
about as far out as we go. I mean, there's the CrossFit games, obviously, and then there's the big events that happen. And there's a lot of like little things sprinkled throughout, but we don't really have like a big list of all this stuff until, you know, like for instance, we went to Miami and we thought we were going to go to Colombia because we were going to go down there to film with this stem cell company that was going to hook us up with some stem cells. And
Oh,
then,
wow.
yeah. And then it turned out there was a bunch of riots, and then they had a lockdown. We're like, okay, let's pivot. So then we went to Boston, and that was actually a much better fit for a 100th episode. And then we weren't even sure if we were going to go to Iowa until, I don't know, a day or two before. We're literally booking our flights almost like the day before. You know, you get really
That's
good airfare that
crazy.
way.
Do you,
Yeah.
I was gonna say, because I mean, because are you guys just like always in communication with a lot of the folks in the CrossFit community, and just like, hey, we want to come watch you
Yeah.
train and film with you and do an episode?
Yeah. And I mean, depending on the athletes' training schedules and their, you know, where they're at in the season and stuff like that, we got to kind of be flexible to, you know, not disrupt too much of what they got going on. So we're just kind of trying to show up and be like flies on the wall for a lot of that
Yeah.
stuff. But then
Okay.
there's, you know, there's other people that we film with that aren't so regimented in their season and stuff like that. They're a little bit more free flowing, and we can kind of just pick up those type of episodes when we have a gap in our schedule. So we try to be as flexible as possible.
Got it. That makes a ton of sense. To back up a little bit, I think for people who maybe don't even know who you are or have watched your YouTube series, obviously very involved in the CrossFit community. Would you mind giving everyone just a little bit of a background into like how you guys even came up with Buttery Bros? Like obviously I know, but I'm not sure who knows. I mean, you worked at CrossFit HQ, like in the media group, and then that whole drama unfolded and you guys got let go. So would you mind just giving everyone maybe a little background into just the we talk about 0 to 1, just like what was the zero, what started all of this in motion?
Uh, okay, I'll back way up. I met Heber in like 2009 at a local competition, and he was already working for CrossFit and doing like these really quick turnaround videos, like before people did that. Like I
Oh,
remember,
okay.
like I met him and he showed up to the competition and he was showing a video of the previous day's like highlights and everything. And I was like, wait, you shot that yesterday and it's already on the internet? Like I didn't know anybody doing that back then because it was like 2009. So like quick turnaround stuff, it was just like, you know, digital was just becoming a thing. So it was now becoming possible. So he kind of blew
Oh,
my mind on how fast he could work and turn stuff around.
okay. Yeah.
And so I just kind of assisted him throughout the weekend. And at the end of the weekend, I gave him all my footage, and he was kind enough to put me in contact with the former media director at CrossFit and said, hey, this guy, you know, he's got a lot of potential. I think that you could probably use him, because they were looking for talent back then. And that was before they really had built a media department.
Okay.
And so uh, eventually I started doing more work for CrossFit and kind of just contracting out. And then we ended up doing like a pilot episode for one of the early, it was a regional, and it was basically a proof of concept for our post-produced ESPN shows that would come out like after the CrossFit games, that were a little bit more like they were live, but they were enhanced with a little bit of post-production.
I
And
think I remember those. Yeah.
yeah. So once we proved that concept, they basically were like, hey, we got green light. We need everybody to move to Santa Cruz right now. And I was
Oh,
like,
wow. Where were you before that?
I was in Salt Lake City. And
Okay.
so I basically like moved my life over there and basically worked out of that office for, you know, I think it was like 8 years or so.
Oh,
But
wow.
throughout that time, I realized pretty early on that like broadcast is not what I want to be doing. And you know, I learned a lot and got to work with a lot of like talented people, and then eventually got the chance to do a lot more like storytelling documentaries. And, you know, we've done the Fittest on Earth docs in the past and stuff like that. And so that
Right.
was really more of where I wanted to focus my energy. And, you know, we were on pace to put a movie out in 2018, and then, you know, everything happened, and I
Yeah.
guess, you know, the former leadership decided they didn't want to produce content. And I was like, it came as a shock and a surprise, because we had spent all that time, you know, collaborating and working to try and build this thing up. And it was finally to a point where we're like, we kind of have gotten to where we wanted to get to. We have the funding, we have, you know, sponsorship dollars coming in and everybody was stoked with the product that we were putting out. And then it just kind of all ended suddenly. And I saw it as like an opportunity. It was like, well, if CrossFit doesn't want to make this media, I'll make it and do it for myself, you know?
Well,
And
there was definitely demand there. Like I remember that was early on in my time at RX, and I was just like, this is so strange. I feel like media is like taken off, and like
yeah,
everyone
it was like,
loves the
so
stuff you guys are putting out. Why would you stop it now? It seemed like the
yeah, it didn't
following
make
was
sense.
growing. I remember going to
Yeah.
Madison that year or the year before, and it was just crazy how many people, like the growth of the sport.
Yeah, it was definitely like exploding. And I think that, although I saw the value in it and a lot of people in the community, I did think that, the former owner
Yeah.
didn't, and or maybe he just didn't want to highlight athletes that way because he thought that, I know that he thought that, why by showing the tip of the spear in CrossFit, that it might have been intimidating for the everyday uh, person that's just trying to lose some weight. And he thought it was maybe a little bit of a deterrent to them.
Oh,
So I
okay.
understand where he's coming from there, but instead of like trying to apply to all those audiences, he just went in the complete opposite direction. And then you had like people lifting those antifreeze jugs and stuff. And
Yeah,
I was like, wow, this
that's right.
this took a hard turn. So uh so once that was all kind of coming to an end, we were like, well, we still want to make this stuff. So we set out to make like a documentary series, slightly different than like a full feature length doc. And I thought it would be a cool opportunity to kind of go to these events that were kind of unknown at the time, to kind of highlight that, but also have a continuous story that progressed throughout the season that eventually got to the CrossFit Games. And we started producing that. And then
Was this
along
on
the
your own
way,
at this point, or is this with CrossFit
yeah,
still?
yeah. So
Yeah.
this was after we got let go from
Oh, okay.
CrossFit.
Okay.
And along the way, like we had made really good relationships with all these athletes and all these different coaches and camps and everything. So they were very supportive of letting us come and film with them. And they also needed us as much as we needed them, because all of a sudden their like media supply or like promotion was just cut off. And they were
Oh,
like,
good
well,
point. I hadn't thought of that. Yeah, that
yeah.
makes
So,
sense.
so pretty much they were like, if you guys want to come and film with us and make a video. And, I was already pretty good friends with Matt Fraser, and we went there to film like a commercial for a company. And, me and Heber had just been to Dubai because that was our first episode we
Oh,
were trying to
yeah.
produce for that series. And they had done a really gnarly workout called Acid Bath. And it was
That's
like,
right.
I think it was like a 500-meter ski, a 500-meter row, and 1,000-meter bike erg. But it's just like all lactic acid buildup, and it just like destroys you. And it was like, of all the workouts I've seen in live competition, I've never seen so many people just crippled after the
Yeah, wasn't that
event.
the one where you guys got all the footage? Everyone's like laying in the hallways, like no one can walk
Yeah.
up and out of
People
the
were
stadium.
so wrecked, like hands and knees crawling off the floor. And so when we were at Matt's house, I was like, hey, maybe we should do that workout, And Sammy's there, and I'm like, here, will you film us do this? Because I think I'm going to smoke Heber in this, and hand her the camera. And we start, going back and forth with some playful banter. And Chris Hinshaw's there, and he's totally on Team Hebes. He's just
Yeah,
pumping
yeah.
Hebes' tires. Like, you got Mars. There's no way he's going to beat you. It's just, he was fully supportive of Hebes. And I was like, all right, Chris, I'm going to show you what's up, And, that ended up being our like very first video that we produced for Buttery Bros. And it was kind of unintentional. It was like, we got back from that trip and I was looking at all this footage. I'm like, Hebes, this is actually pretty fun. And I think that we should just throw it up on YouTube and see what happens. And
Oh, really?
I
That's
was
how
like,
it all started.
yeah, that's kind of how it all started, And uh, right around that time, we were at Wadapalooza in 2019, and we produced that episode and we threw it up on YouTube. And I guess back up a little bit, we were trying to figure out what to name the YouTube channel.
Okay.
And Buttery was something me and Heber said to each other all the time when we like either compose a really nice shot on the, on the games, and it was smooth and it like was crisp and it was a nice composed shot. I was like, dude, check this out, super buttery, right? And he was like, yeah, that was just something we always said. So when we were getting ready to launch the YouTube channel, I knew that we wanted to call it something buttery. And I didn't know what else. And I was like, well, what is it? Buttery guys, buttery dudes, buttery bros. Do you like Buttery Bros? Yeah. I'm like, okay, let's go with that.
Oh, wow.
So
Okay.
that's kind of how it got started. And then we were walking around Wadapalooza and people were like recognizing us as the Buttery Bros. And I was like, all right, this is
It's
kind of cool,
sticking.
Yeah, it was sticking. And
So it
so,
really wasn't like when you guys got let go, it wasn't like you guys left and went to one of your guys' places and we're like, all right, we got to figure out what we're doing next. And we're starting Buttery Bros. It wasn't, it really what it was, took a little time
no, it
and it
was,
was kind of
yeah,
organic.
it was because we got let go in October, and I don't think we released our first video until sometime in January. So there was like a couple, 2 or 3 months there where we were literally just trying to survive and trying to figure out ways to either create content for athletes or with athletes and tell athlete stories. And I don't think we ever really thought we were going to like flip the camera around on ourselves and start uh, trying to be characters in our own show that we hosted.
That's funny. I
So
hadn't thought of it like that. Like you guys were always on the other side of the camera for so long and then you just flipped it
yeah,
around and everything. Because I had wondered that when you first launched it. I was like, I don't think I saw an episode. I didn't see an episode until maybe early 2020, actually. And then,
okay.
but I went back and I was like, I want to watch the beginning of these. And I remember thinking, like, wow, how do these guys have such good connections with like all of the CrossFit community? It was like amazing to me. So this is all making a ton of sense. Yeah.
Yeah,
This
yeah.
is,
It was literally like, almost a decade of being out in the field and connecting with people and having good lasting relationships. Cause I look at a lot of these athletes and I consider them close friends and great
sure. Yeah.
people and people I admire and look up to. So it was pretty easy to, then flip the script and kind of have a new concept that they were
Yeah.
fully supportive of. And like they were, more than willing to come on the show and have us promote them and have a an interesting outlook on, like, I guess, an interesting and different outlook on what we had traditionally done.
Mhm.
So
I mean, it was definitely the first thing that I also noticed was I felt like not only the type of content, but like the creativeness and like the skill you guys had in all of your videos. Like it's just such high quality in your graphics. Like you feel like you're watching a movie. Like you really do feel like you're watching like a mini movie. Whereas I feel like a lot of vlog type videos before that weren't really focused on a niche as much. Maybe some were, I'm sure, but the ones I've always
mhm.
watched weren't. And then two, like, I mean, they were some nice cameras, but they were usually just that's it. It was like I always think of like Casey Neistat kind of set a whole standard of what people started copying. You guys kind of
Yeah,
like reimagined it and made it into like truly like mini movies, which I thought was really wild. Like it really captivated me. The first one time I watched one, I was like, holy shit, how much like time does this take to edit all this stuff together? Like
it
it's like a
takes a
full
lot of
blown movie.
time. Yeah, and I mean, I don't think that the concept kind of developed over time, and it's not like we were thinking this is like a show. We were thinking it was a vlog, and the first few episodes were your typical length, like 8 to 9, 10 minutes,
Yeah.
and then as we started like starting to work with brands and starting to take on outside sponsors and stuff like that, it started to like send us to places that were a lot more of like an experience. And I felt like it was much more representative of like what we do as storytellers, like because we
Okay.
came from a filmmaking background, was to almost like create a show out of it. And it kind of developed that way. And what was really cool early on is we like through our connections in the media, I worked with a lot of really talented people that I really still consider good friends today. And one of our closest I guess people that we worked with when we were at CrossFit was Julian Marquez, and he does motion graphics. And he was somebody that like, it was this weird thought of, I was like, man, this is like, I'd really like to work with these guys still, and I'm trying to
Yeah,
figure out a
sure.
way to like make it work. And he saw what we were doing and he was like, dude, this is really cool. And I want to be a part of it. And he started doing graphics for us, like
Wow.
the front part of our shows are pretty heavy, like with animations, and they're high energy and they're over the top. And I feel like he saw that and he was like, this is really fun, because he came from like he had just finished working at the Raiders,
Oh, I didn't know
and
that. Okay.
yeah, so he was doing all like the ribbon boards and everything at the Raiders. So like he lived in black, silver, and white. And that was
Yeah.
like that was the color palette for everything. So then when we started doing stuff, he was like, I'm gonna throw all the color at these graphics and make them so over the top, just because it was so different for him. So he really enjoyed it. And then, as it developed, we were able to like turn it more into a show. And now we have like a Whoop segment, we have a Beam segment, we have a bunch of different people that we work with, that it's really kind of turned it into a full-fledged show that, now we're 100 episodes in, and I'm
Yeah.
like just having a blast doing it, because it's definitely like when I got let go, I was really kind of down on my luck, and I thought that I didn't know what I was going to do next. And was the best thing that could have ever happened. Cause now I'm looking at it and I'm like, man, if I was still working at CrossFit and just creating content for somebody else, and, you know, it definitely like forced me to grow, and it forced me to like do things that are super uncomfortable, and, but also like do things because I know that it'll be fulfilling, you know?
Yeah.
So now I feel like we're doing really cool stuff, and I'm like just proud and happy. And I couldn't ask for like a better business partner in Heber, because he's super talented. And I always knew that, you know, and we worked together for, you know, all that time and developed a really good relationship while we were at CrossFit, but we didn't really like hang out too much outside of work. And now you know, I sleep in the same bed with him a lot. So
things have escalated.
yeah, they definitely have. And, you know, we're doing all sorts of crazy stuff now, and I'm so happy to be where we are.
No, man, that's so super cool. I mean, I can only imagine what that must have been like getting let go at CrossFit. I've been at companies where we've had, you know, I've gone through that as well, and it sucks. But it seems like, you know, working at something like CrossFit, I feel like everyone that I've ever gotten to meet that has worked there, I mean, it's a little bit different than I would say most people's jobs. Like usually if you work at
Yeah.
CrossFit HQ, you're probably really into the sport and it's like an intimate
Yeah.
part of your life too. So I'm sure that was tough. Just, you know, so you do probably outside of work as you do CrossFit. And so getting
Yeah.
let go of
Everything
that
was
was tough, I'm
CrossFit, and it's
sure.
still, yeah. And it's like, you know, everybody that was there was full, like they're foot soldiers for the CrossFit movement. You know, they fully believed in it, and they lived and breathed it. And so when it kind of all ended abruptly, everybody was just super confused. They're like, we all know what we've been doing has been impactful, and it's been a positive message, and it's helped change a lot of people's lives. So why is it ending? And nobody really
Yeah.
knew. And, you know, it eventually got to the point where, you know, the former leader had to sell his company because it had changed so much. And, you know, it was just very out of touch with what the community was, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, for sure. Honestly, like that
Yeah.
was such a bad time for CrossFit, but I feel like it got so good on the other side of that dark tunnel. You know what I mean? Now with the
Yeah.
athletes and
Yeah. I
everything
mean,
they're
yeah, this
doing.
last summer it was nuts with all the, you know, the racial injustice stuff and the murder of George Floyd, and then the tweet and everything. And it was just like, it got really bad. And in order for it to like get better, you know, they got a new leader, and I feel like the possibilities are very positive now. And I like the direction that I see with Eric Rosa and the people that they have running it over there. And it's still early to kind of know what all is going to shake out, but I definitely feel like the right approach is being taken towards the sport itself, like valuing that, but also knowing that, like, you know, there's a lot of people that are just trying to keep their gyms open, and a lot of people have gone out of business. And so I think that they're doing a good job of trying to hear everybody's concerns and be there to listen, really.
Yeah, which I think was probably something that was not not happening at all from an outsider's perspective, and seeing a lot of the voice versus what you're seeing the athletes go through. It seemed like they didn't really match up apples to apples.
Yeah. And that was something that, like, early on, I was like, I just want, like, because I was around those top level athletes so much, I wanted them to succeed, you know, and
Oh,
I
sure.
wanted to see them be regarded as professional athletes that they were, you know, and I thought that if there's something that I could do to try and elevate them in a way, because I look up to them as like superheroes in a way, because of
Yeah.
what they do is insane, and it's super impressive, the type of people they are and just the way that they live their lives. And so, yeah, I think it's been really cool just to be able to run around with that crowd.
Oh, I bet. I mean, yeah, you go from having to go to an office every day to edit stuff for somebody else to now creating your own with some of the, you know, coolest people in the sport. So that's got to be wild.
Yeah.
I mean, for you, like, for you guys, right? So you launched that first episode with Matt and Acid Bath. I mean, at that point, when you saw it kind of like start to get traction, was that when all of a sudden you're like, okay, we should like make this into a real company? I mean, to hire Marquez. I mean, like it seemed like there's a lot of things started probably happening pretty quickly. Was there like a lot of conversations with you and Heber back then of like, oh, because then you guys launched like merch and you started partnering with, like, for people who don't know much. I mean, you guys have your own website where you sell merch, tons of really cool stuff. Honestly, it's dope. And then you guys partner with really cool brands that tie super well into just the overall messaging and, clientele of the people in your videos and watching your videos. Like I've been very impressed to like, I mean, you guys almost have been able to like hand pick brands that I would say like they couldn't go more perfect with the type of people that are in your videos. So
Yeah.
did that all kind of happen by chance, or did you guys like really take a step back and like plan that out once you started getting more traction?
A lot of it happened by chance, but a lot of it just happened by like one thing that you do will lead to the next thing. And it's like, before you know it, you've created something that you're pretty stoked on. So early on, we like the first person that was like our mentor was Matt O'Keefe, who we
Oh,
refer to as
nice.
Chief on the show.
Yeah.
So he's Matt Fraser's manager and agent and really good friend, and also like his coach at the games and everything. So Matt is like probably one of the most accomplished people in the space as far as like, now he owns Wadapalooza. He's part of Loud and Live. He has the
Oh, I didn't
Granite
know
Games,
that.
and he
He
has
owns Wadapalooza?
well, he's like on the Loud and Live team that basically runs that event.
Oh, I
So
didn't know that. Okay.
yeah, so he was very involved early on with representing a lot of athletes, and so he knew the space. He knew like what like the going rate was for a lot of things, and so we basically like reached out to him, and he kind of gave us like a business 101, Matt O'Keefe,
Oh, that's
and
cool.
I didn't come from a business background. I'm a creative, I just wanted to make videos. But as things started happening, we wanted to figure out how to tailor our product to, specific brands and people that we wanted to work with, because everybody kind of wants a little bit something different,
Sure. Yeah.
And so I think it was almost like we just like bet on ourselves, because we knew that what we could do, and we knew like that we could do it, and
Yeah.
there was like a little bit of a struggle in the beginning. Like I remember we went to London, like without any real plan. We just knew that they were going to be doing an open announcement there.
Okay.
And CrossFit wasn't doing any media, and there wasn't really like a for sure set plan. But I was like, if we can go to London and create the best piece of content, we're going to win somehow. So we went there. Yeah, we went there, and it was like one of the first, it was the first open announcement in 19. And we were part of like the live show after, and we interacted and had a really good product that we were stoked with, and stayed up all night and put it out at like 3 PM the next day.
Oh,
and
wow.
then the very next week,
you stay up all night editing that?
Yeah, that was like for the first while there, it was like, okay, if we're going to make this thing worthwhile, we got to get the content out as fast as possible, because
Sure.
every day that goes by, it just kind of like reduces the impact of what, the newsworthy aspect of it. And so by the end of that trip, we started receiving emails, and we're getting contacted by people and brands in the space that were interested in what we were doing, because they just,
Wow.
they saw that there was like a lack of media, and they knew that we were, obviously creative enough to turn around content and turn it around fast,
Yeah.
So the next week we took on a sponsor, and, figured out a way to kind of tailor what we were doing to meet their needs. And then we've basically had a sponsor, and we've worked with brands every show since then. And we've brought on, ones that are much more involved, like Whoop and GoWatt and Blenders Eyewear. And there's a bunch of them that we really like working with, but it's been, it's been a process. And in that process, you mentioned merch. We didn't have any merch, and we went to the Fittest Experience in Austin, Texas.
Okay. Yeah.
I
remember that.
Yeah. We met the guy that now does our merch, but at the time he was doing like subscription boxes where you like pay a monthly, and they put a bunch of stuff into a box, and they ship it to you. And he was like, hey, I'd really like to put like your guys' t-shirt in my box. Could I do that? And I'm like, well, we don't have a t-shirt. And he's like, oh, well, I can make t-shirts that goes in the box. I'm like, cool, man. That sounds great. Let's do it.
Sweet.
Yeah. And so we did it. The box sold really well. And, at the end of it, we're like, man, that was a good little collab. Do you think you can make us some more shirts? And so he started making us more shirts. And then before we knew it, we almost created a whole nother revenue stream of just merchandise that Ken was really, he kind of proved that he could do it, and he wasn't doing it before. And now he makes merch for the morning chalk up. He makes merch for us. He makes merch for Talking Elite Fitness and
Oh,
Sammy.
wow.
And
So he's really just
so
kind of gotten involved in the whole sport now.
yeah, and I don't think he does the subscription box anymore. So it's basically like he brought an opportunity to us, and we, were able to make it work. And now it's created a whole nother business for him that he's happy with, and we're stoked to be working with him on that. And yeah, we're now doing a bunch of cool custom stuff. Like we're about to release like a backpack that we've been working on for a while, and we just did a bunch of really cool mugs that say Buttery Gang on them that are like shaker
Nice.
cups, and we've done blankets, and we're going to be releasing like a jort soon that
Oh,
is
love
like
that.
like almost like a jean short that is just ridiculous with all these butter and sayings and us as cartoons on it and everything. So it's been really cool to, kind of, like I said, like have one thing lead to the next thing that then creates an opportunity, and always trying to like keep your head on a swivel to look for those opportunities when they arise and kind of seize the moment when you can.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the one thing that I've always thought is interesting for guys like you who are, building something like you are, when you have a brand like Whoop or any of these guys that work with you guys, I mean, like how did you know even like to start the conversation, like what you're worth? Like, I feel like that would be a tough thing as a creator. Like, how do you value putting them on your videos?
Yeah, and that was something that was like kind of hard to understand, like early on, is how do you value that stuff? And it's like you kind of set your own price,
Okay.
and what, the time that it takes to put into it, and like what the man hours and like what we have to contract out Julian to make the graphics for. Plus, we're traveling to these locations, so there's hotels and airfare and everything that goes along with that. So it all kind of adds up. So uh, it's different for everybody, I think.
Okay.
And obviously, like when we first started, we were doing it for less than we're doing it for now, because
Yeah.
it was still kind of unproven and it was a new concept. And then once you start doing it, and then once you start being like, oh, we can really incorporate this a lot better as we go. And like, we figured out ways to like, involve Whoop. We have a Whoop section where we break down our data, but then we also like, there's other brands like Beam that is a nighttime sleep aid drink that tastes really good, but it also like puts you to sleep pretty quick, and I get
Yeah.
better sleep, but I can track that on my Whoop. So it's almost like I can use one brand that we're working with to build up another brand, and it's like everybody starts to win in that scenario.
It's
And
super.
so
I mean, that's exactly what I was hinting at. Like, it's super impressive. I mean, I think
yeah.
yeah, you like inherently create more value for everybody, I'm sure, involved in that. I mean, it's impressive. And then like you guys did a collab with Whoop with your own band. I mean, like stuff like that. Like you're just getting very ingrained into these brands, even.
Yeah, that was really cool too, because like we were just at Whoop's headquarters like no more than a week ago, and they have this thing called the Whoop Labs, and they take you in there and they put a Whoop on both your arms, and they put like one around your sternum so they can get like 3 different places to measure your heart rate, and then they put you through like an array of different workouts, and they
Oh,
collect
wow.
all the collect all the data, and it's basically a way for them to just improve the product and have feedback from us too.
Yeah.
But we sold all out of those custom bands, which was
Did you
cool
really?
because yeah, so they were it was like I don't know, probably like a month and a half, but we sold through like all of the inventory that we agreed to promote, and now you can't get them if
That's
you didn't get them.
amazing. I
Yeah,
was
so it's pretty
laughing
rad.
right after you guys launched. I live in Chicago, and I was at like the mall. Me and my wife, we got a Peloton, and she was trying to like get something fitted or something. And we were in there, and the guy that was like doing the fitting, he had one of your straps on. And
Oh, cool.
I was like, wait, is that a Buttery Bros Whoop strap? He's like, no way, you know what the Buttery. It was just so funny. I'm like, what are the chances of that? You know what I mean? Like, it's not
Yeah,
that big of a community in like CrossFit and everything else. It was funny. I'm like, it's a small
yeah, it is
world out
funny.
there, man. But it was cool. It looked great. It looked awesome.
Yeah, yeah, and uh I guess going back to like some of the other people that we worked with, like early on when we were not early on, but like in 2020, we were going out to Strength and Depth to film with Matt Fraser. And there was this guy that was like kind of just a fan of the show. His name's James. And he just kept like pumping our tires, being like, love what you guys are doing. It's super fun. if you're ever in London, let me know. I'd like to meet up with you guys and introduce you to some other brands, And I was like,
yeah.
cool. This guy seems like a nice guy. And we showed up in London. He picked us up and he drove us to Gymshark headquarters outside of London. And we got to meet all the Gymshark crew. And it was really impressive, like how fast that brand has grown.
Oh yeah.
And to see like where they're headed and kind of like now that they're getting much more involved in CrossFit and trying to like we were basically the first CrossFit athletes, I guess athletes or whatever we are, personalities, whatever.
I'd definitely say athletes.
Yeah. And so as we started to like work with brands like Gymshark and then now we're working with Rain too, like it's cool to like find these brands that are in the space of fitness that aren't just CrossFit, right?
Yeah.
Because
yeah.
we're very much interested in all aspects of fitness and featuring people that are like really impressive in their own regard, in their own sport or whatever it may be. And it's been fun to collaborate with brands that are like, hey, like tell us what you need, tell us how we can help. And so now, we just were in Denver yesterday meeting with Gymshark and we've got some pretty cool stuff planned coming forward with them. And yeah, I think that like even with Rain, like they brought a lot of athletes that we probably would have never been in contact otherwise. Cause we just did an episode with Kai Green, who's like,
I mean, like how cool is
world
that?
renowned. Yeah. Like not power lifter, but bodybuilder. And does
he make you just feel like a tiny human being in person?
He is so big, dude. He is a massive human, but he's like, we show up to his gym and he like immediately greets us like, hey, this is a safe place. You can trust you. Like this is going to be fun.
Yeah.
Be relaxed, because I'm sure a lot of people probably are intimidated by it, not just his personality and his, his legend of Kai Green, but just that he's a big dude, But we collaborated with him and it was probably like one of the funnest experiences with somebody outside of the CrossFit space. And that's been really cool to be able to go to somebody else's like world, be it like powerlifting or bodybuilding or whatever it is, like I'm cool meeting with anybody if they're a good person and are open to collaborating with some goofs, So
no, I love that. I mean, it's been cool. I was going to ask you that because like obviously like most of them as I've watched have been very CrossFit heavy, but yeah, I was going to say lately you guys have really been branching out. And I mean, like Steffi Cohen's is a little bit different.
Steffi Cohen.
You guys have you've met with some really cool people to your point in the fitness industry, but and I have to imagine, that just opens the door for these people to then get intertwined into your guys' audience, and it allows you guys to kind of get intertwined into like other brands and their audiences too, right? Which is fantastic.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's, those are all just great opportunities for us to be able to grow the Buttery Bros show and to grow our brand and to not just be not necessarily pigeonholed, but to not just be like so attached to one thing. Yeah. Like I want when people watch our show, I want them to just like laugh, have fun, maybe feel motivated to go work out and to do some fitness, but not to just think that these are just CrossFit guys. Like that's obviously our roots and where we came from, but like we want to be known as like almost like the thing that connect to all the different aspects of people's fitness journey or whatever it is.
You guys definitely have the personalities to do that. I mean, like, you know what I mean? Like, just like you guys together, it's like always like seems like it lights up the room with whatever person you're visiting or collaborating with. Like it all works so well. I mean, speaking of that, you guys obviously came up through CrossFit. Is that what you and Heber, do you guys pretty much do CrossFit as like a basis for fitness today still? Or do you guys still branch out and do other stuff?
I would say I'm doing mostly CrossFit, but I also do whatever it is with whoever we're filming with.
Yeah,
So I end up doing a lot of different things, like as far as like an overall, like general physical preparedness. I don't think there's anything better than CrossFit. Okay. Obviously like I really enjoy bodybuilding just because, intimidation,
yeah, right.
you know?
Right. Yeah.
So there's that, but then like we just did like a Spartan race, and I'm not like, I don't have a background in obstacle racing and Spartan and stuff, but it's like when they come to you and they're like, hey, we like what you're doing, we'd like you to come to our event. And I'm like, this sounds fun. I'll go down and run through some obstacles and throw a spear at a dummy. I'm like, yeah,
it looked fun. That episode was sweet.
so there's been events like that, but then there's also events like Tribal Clash that we went down to Australia and got a chance to, well, we actually won the whole
Yeah,
thing.
didn't you guys
which was
win? Yeah.
it was a
That's
really
sweet.
big surprise. Like we went down there being like, well, you know, we'll go to this event, see how it goes. And then they just like matched us up with some people that like one guy in particular, his name was Charlie, and he'd probably done like 6 or 7 tribal clashes before. And
Okay.
a tribal clash is basically like it takes place on the beach in, you know, various locations around the world, but it's no barbells. It's very much like odd object carries and carrying logs and going up and over obstacles and stuff like that. And he knew basically what to expect, and he kind of got us like up to speed with what the event was. And
Oh, wow.
one of the events was like a tug of war, and I haven't done a tug of war since freaking, I don't know, elementary school or something.
Sure,
But
right.
he was like, listen to me, and we'll see how this goes. And by the end of it, like we walked across the finish line, they handed us the trophy, and I was like, did we just win this
You're like,
whole thing? It was super weird. It's like the end of a Disney movie, you know?
yeah, you're like, how the hell do we win? We
Yeah.
just showed up to do this. That's so
Yeah, and
funny.
it definitely didn't feel like I'm showing up to win this thing. It was like I'm showing up to have fun and make a video and high five and tell some jokes, you know?
Yeah, right. No, that makes sense. I mean, what do you guys follow? I know you guys work at it. I forget the name of it, the one in Salt Lake City. But do you guys follow like some sort of general training methodology? It's funny because I've actually learned some different ones from you guys. Like I actually just started messing around with Marcus Philly's like persist
Oh
stuff.
yeah, yeah.
Because
Like
his is
functional
like kind of
bodybuilding.
totally why it's like just totally threw me for a loop because it's so different than the normal CrossFit stuff I've done.
Yeah, it definitely is. So we work at a gym here in Salt Lake called Excel Fitness.
Okay, yeah, that's it. Yeah.
In my opinion, of all the places I've traveled and all the places and gyms I've been into, it's my favorite place. And it's not just because I like live here and go to the gym, but because it has like a CrossFit gym that's like kind of like a separate like room that you can go do CrossFit in, but then it has like a whole functional workout space in their main area. Like it has like turf all down it, and they have row rigs, and they have all the like rowers and ski ergs and pegboards and
Is it like a
ropes. And
is it like a franchise or just like a one location
no,
thing?
just one location. And I think it was like originally started as like a traditional, you know, like bodybuilding gym or like, you know, machines and stuff. And they
Yeah.
still have all that stuff, but it's all upstairs. So it's like basically, I mean, they have like Olympic weightlifting platforms. They have everything that you could ever need. And it's super clean. It's very like branded, and it's a good looking gym, and it's fun to film at. But back to your question on like what program we follow, like I like to just see what the group's doing. Like I'll show up there and there's like little pockets, you know, because like there's all
Okay.
these programs now. Like there's
There's
people
so many.
doing Tia's program, like there's people doing Proven, and then there's people doing Comp Train, and then there's people doing Matt's program, Hard Work Pays Off. And so I always like show up like not knowing what I'm gonna do, but I just
Oh,
kind of like
okay.
walk around, and because I've done CrossFit long enough to like know how to do all the movements and everything, but I'm
Yeah.
also like I'm selective now where I'm like, what am I going to do that's going to be fun? Like I'm here
Yeah,
to
sure.
have fun, you know, like I'm not here to like do L sit holds and ring handstand push-ups and all that. Like there's a time and a place for that. And obviously the best in the world need to focus on that. But I'm like, I want to do what I'm good at, you know?
Okay. Yeah. No,
So,
I totally
so,
get that. You're not trying to win the
so
CrossFit
I,
games, right? Yeah.
yeah. So, I mean, I show up and I kind of cherry pick what I want to do. And, you know, I still do stuff that I'm not great at, but I definitely like avoid certain things and trying to just go in there and throw down for, you know, no more than an hour and get out and feel good and feel accomplished. So,
Love it. That's nice. It's not you're not like stressed out about following a program either. But
yeah.
actually, one question I wanted to also ask, I don't know where I heard this. I just want to know if it was true. Is it Pat Sherwood's on Monday of like so I also followed his linchpin stuff for a while.
The mash.
Is that from you and Heber? Like I thought I heard a rumor that like he
Well,
started it because you guys like were trying to look for like a challenge to go head to head. So he started creating that for you guys.
yeah, I think I'm not sure like what came first, like us wanting to work out or him creating those things, but I remember him like he had launched Linchpin, which was his like affiliate, but it was mostly just like an online programming that he was like Pat's a very good programmer, and he loves like programming things and then watching us go do them, and then just sitting back and like spectating and watching like either
Oh,
the wheels
really?
fall off. Yeah, because like back when we all worked at CrossFit, it was like the Monday Monster Mash was like the workout that we'd always do, and it was usually traditionally like a 3-part workout where you would do like a Metcon and then you'd have a 5-minute break and then something else that was either very, Metcon-y or like strength based, and then a 5-minute rest and then a third one. And by the time like I got to the third one, I'm dragging ass, like I'm not like, I played football, so I'm like a quick burst type of guy. Like I'm good at like short little 7-minute type of things, and anything much longer than that, I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to get it done, but it's not going to look good, So early on, he started doing that. And it was like a cool little like competition every Monday that me and Tommy Marquez and Heber and a bunch of the other guys that worked at HQ would always kind of get together and talk a bunch of trash and try and beat each other in those workouts.
That's so fun. I mean, he still does them. Like they're on his app. I have his app.
Yeah, I see
every
him
Monday
on there.
he still has them. That's great.
They're really tough and they're really hard workouts. And I mean, if you want to like almost feel like you're training for something, that then do the monster mash.
Yeah,
it'll definitely it'll get you fit.
I mean, it's cool. Sometimes I sometimes I look at his training and I like doubt that. I'm like, this can't be hard enough. Like I got to do more than this today. Like there's no ways. And then you do them.
Simple.
You're like, yeah, exactly. And then it's just always get you, man. It works.
There's nothing worse than when you like look at a workout and you're like, I don't know, man, this isn't enough. And then you hit it with intensity and then you're like, okay, yeah, that was plenty. I'm good.
More than enough. Yep, exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, that's really cool. I mean, I think it's just the CrossFit community as a whole. I didn't really know anything about CrossFit until I joined RX in 2017. And then the guys that started it, Peter and Jared, their branding was built so much on that community as well. So I kind of became like super ingrained in it. So now it's just cool to see all these other things that like you guys who've spun out and have made businesses out of one, really one sport, and have just gotten creative and made a name for yourselves. So, I mean, for you guys today, like you have merch, obviously a lot of brand partnerships. I mean, you have YouTube, so you can make money that way too. But what do you guys, I mean, you kind of hinted at Gymshark. Do you guys have like a long-term strategy, or are you guys just trying to just, like, as you said earlier, just like keep moving, keep going and see what unfolds and keep pushing the envelope?
Yeah, I think that the strategy kind of develops as we go. Like, we just announced that we're starting Podium, which is a
congratulations
supplement company.
I haven't mentioned that yet. Yeah.
Yeah. Matt Fraser being our partner in that, can't think of a better person to represent the brand and represent us. And, he just retired, so he has a lot of time to dedicate to these other business ventures that he's starting, like his programming and everything like that. And then, there's just like a bunch of other stuff that we like for a while wanted to kind of like maybe sell this show as like a packaged, like syndicated show that we could put on either a streaming service or something like that.
Yeah.
And that's still something that we're kind of like thinking and playing with. Not really sure if that takes control away from us or if YouTube's the best place for the Buttery Bros show. But aside from that, we're doing a 2020 documentary that's just about to be finished. It's going to come out in July. It's called Resurgence. It basically tells the whole story of what happened in 2020, basically like the kind of like the fall of CrossFit a little bit and what happened during all that, heated, and I'm kind of drawing a blank on what you'd call that whole era.
Yeah, I mean, there's just a big black hole on CrossFit, really, on a dark year anyway, right?
Yeah, and so we go into that and we kind of like trying to show the transparency of how CrossFit pulled off an event during COVID and all the challenges that came with that, but also like tipping our hats to Matt's last year and him and Tia being training partners throughout that whole time and finishing in that really epic way of holding each other's hands coming across the finish line. And there's a bunch of little other really cool moments that happened, and featuring people like Justin Medeiros, who's just going to be an all-star moving forward. And I think he's kind of got a lot of the attention of the community right now. And same with like Haley Adams, who's like one of the youngest, but probably the toughest individual athlete that I've ever like seen compete.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of cool like stories, and I'm really excited for that to come out. And that'll be like our 5th or 6th documentary now. And our second one since being let go from CrossFit, and we're actually
So
partnered with
cool.
them on the movie, which is
I
kind of funny
I remember you guys were
to
filming the 20. I mean, when you were there live and you guys were posting like YouTube videos of the 2020 games. I just thought it was how cool was that when you guys were like, I forget his name, the guy who was like your boss, and you guys like filmed him like, yeah,
yeah,
what do you think now? You
Justin.
like hired us to come back and film this. I thought
I
that
know
was
that was
so
such a
cool.
funny thing because it's like I remember like he didn't want to fire us. He was like
Sure.
literally like, you know, given the command to do so. And I remember getting a call in 2018 while I was in Brazil, and it was him, and I got fired over the phone after.
Oh no, really?
Oh yeah, it was like a breakup over text or something. You know, I was like,
Shit.
oh okay, that's how we're gonna do it. But you know, I don't hold anything against that or hold any bad blood. It's all water under the bridge. But it was very funny when the 2020 documentary uh, comes around and they're like, hey, would you guys want to partner with us on this movie? And I'm like, oh,
How
going
funny.
back to the bros, you know. I was like, yeah, we'll partner with you guys. Let's see how this thing goes. So we're just about to finish that up, and can't be more excited to, you know, one, to be done with it, because documentaries take forever, and it's
I'm
like such a
sure.
grind and such a process, especially when we're out filming a Buttery Bro show almost every week.
I know
And
that's what
so
honestly I take a step back and I'm like, you guys sometimes make me feel like I'm not doing enough. I'm like, I feel like I'm
really,
working all the time and I'm
wow.
like, shit, yeah, they're always putting content out. I'm like, it's impressive, you know?
Yeah. And it's definitely something like when I'm not putting content out, I feel like I'm falling behind. Like if we go like 10 days without a show, I'm like, oh man, we got to get something up, you
Got to
know,
get on the
like,
plane, got to go film something.
yeah. So that's what's nice. Like this last trip, like we were able to get 3 episodes in the span of like 10 days. And now I don't have to travel until semis, which is nice because
Nice. Yeah.
yeah,
Kind of
it's
gives you some
like,
time at home and time to
yeah,
actually just
time
get
at
through
home
stuff.
with, yeah, I got the
The
dog
buddy.
back there, you
Oh,
know?
he's so
Yeah.
cute. I saw him hop in.
Yeah. So
That's
he's
awesome. I
happy
mean,
that
it's
I'm home for a
impressive,
little
man.
bit.
I'm really pumped for you guys. I mean, you got so many different things. I mean, even podium. So like the behind the scenes was really cool. I mean, I thought that was a wild episode. Are you guys like, you know, the brand face of it? Are you guys like going to be in charge in like operations? Are you just owning a chunk of it? Or like how is all that like behind the scenes
Well,
happening?
basically, like we're owners in the company, and so is Matt. And the guys that we partnered with, Jeremy and Paul, they're both like experts when it comes to that space, and they had started other supplement brands that they then, you know, were able to sell and have a very real good success with all that. And they're also CrossFitters, and they knew that there wasn't really somebody in the space that was doing what they could do, and
Yeah.
they saw an opportunity in contacting us, and rather than just take like an endorsement deal from another company or another brand or a supplement sponsor, we were like, we would like to, you know, start something together and develop the concept and be able to, you know, create a product that CrossFitters could want, that they would like and be able to take and know that it was clean and well thought out, especially with having Matt on the roster there. And so once we kind of got all in alignment, we just kind of hit the ground running, and they, you know, we got like a good manufacturing supply chain out in Atlanta, and it's all happening, and we're about to launch. We're going to have a booth at the games, and
Oh,
we'll be able to
cool.
like, yeah, we're going to have like product there. And you know, it's been probably like an 8-month process to get to where we are now. And just, it's really, you know, coming up with a name and a brand and a look and a feel and having it represent aspects of the Buttery Bros, but also aspects of Matt Fraser. And, you know, I think we're going to bring on more athletes as we go, and it's going to grow. And it's
Love it.
crazy. It's like definitely not something that I thought that I'd be doing, you know, while I,
Yeah.
you know, it's like, thank you for firing me, CrossFit, you know, because
Well, I mean,
I'm doing
yeah,
stuff now
that's
that,
kind of like the summary of this whole episode in my mind is like, would you have ever thought, you know, a week before you got that phone call in Brazil that like this would be where you're sitting in 2021 with like all of these business endeavors and your own show and your own content and like you're running your own life.
yeah, definitely not, because I probably would have kept working at CrossFit, because honestly, I got to work with all my best friends. It was a really comfortable job. I made content that I was proud of, and people that saw it got inspired, and it changed a lot of people's lives. So it was like there wasn't really something that was pushing me out.
Yeah,
And
right.
until it was almost like you're forced out of the nest, you don't really know if you can fly or not. And
Sure. Oh
just
yeah, great analogy.
definitely, definitely, you know, I'm glad that it all happened because it led to some of the most fulfilling and best relationships and best opportunities that I probably would have never got otherwise.
Yeah, for sure. It's so cool. It's got to be so fun too. Like you guys have to be one of the what's the right word? You guys have to be having more fun than most people I see online producing content. You guys just seem like you're always just
Well, that's
having a
what's
good
so
ass
cool
time.
is, dude, we literally sit back and we're like, what do we want to do today? You know, like who do we want to go be with? Like we're not doing stuff we don't want to be doing. And that's what's
Right.
so cool is because like I think so many people work jobs that they're just, you know, collecting a paycheck and clocking in, clocking out. And that's something that we say on the show all the time. I'm
Yeah.
always like, Hebes, are you tracking your hours? He's like, yeah, dude, I think I'm about to hit overtime, you know? Because I mean, we work a lot and we work around the clock, but when you're working and enjoying what you're doing, it doesn't feel like a job. It definitely feels like I'm living a lifestyle that is, I happen to be able to like document and get paid to do, and also like feature people that are some of the coolest people that are, you know, in the fitness realm, or even just great personalities in their own regard, you know?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, do
Yeah.
you it's cool too because I mean, you guys I guess my next question was just going to be do you have any advice for people who maybe felt like, you know, they were at where you were at CrossFit HQ and would love to design a better lifestyle? I mean, obviously you were in CrossFit and you guys were just really smart and had great ideas and put some work in and figured it out and built something, but for someone on the outside listening to this, do you have any advice for someone who would want to do something like that?
Um, yeah, it's kind of like you got to bet on yourself. If you have a skill that you know you're good at and you can basically charge somebody for you to do it, then do it. And like, it's going to be, it comes with a lot of challenges, but it's almost if you look at where you want to get to, and it
Hmm.
might seem really insurmountable, but just know that like one thing leads to the next thing that then leads to the next thing, and then opportunities come, and always be looking for those opportunities when they arise. Because like Whoop's a good example. Like I just went up to the Whoop booth when we were in Wadapalooza in 2019 to introduce myself to them, and they knew who we were because we worked at CrossFit. But that was like the initial thing that started our relationship with them. And you never know like what a conversation you're going to have will lead to, you know, down the road. And
Yeah.
so, um, you know, do what's uncomfortable. Like I've done more uncomfortable things. Like it was really uncomfortable for me just to be on camera at first, because like I was always behind the camera and I was always pointing it the other direction, and
Oh,
then
I
to
never
turn it
thought
around
about
on your,
that.
yeah, to
Yeah.
turn it around on myself, like I would say it came a lot more natural to Heber, because I don't know, like that's maybe just something that comes naturally to him. To me, it was like a little bit intimidating, or like I it took a minute for me to just kind of like be myself, which that's what you need to do. Like if you're trying to like put on a persona or like put on an image, it's not it's not authentic, you know? Like
Yeah.
be 100% who you are. And I think that shows in our content, because like I'm literally who I am on camera is who I am in real life. You know, it's like I'm living authentic to who I am, and I feel like that's what people want to see, and that's what makes our show and what we do fun, because we're just a couple of guys, a couple of white guys from Utah that you know just have a lot of fun bantering with each other, and also just experiencing uh, really cool things that we probably have no business doing, and a lot of times make the most of it, you know?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I will say, you know, I've been talking to you for an hour now and I'm impressed everything that I've watched in your guys' YouTube videos. I mean, you're the same person on here that you are on YouTube. So that's cool. Because I always think you
Yeah,
never know. You see someone on camera and you never know what they'd be like in life
sure.
talking to them, even over
Yeah. And
Zoom,
I
you know what I
mean,
mean?
I mean, I've worked and I've been around some of those types of people where you're like, this is a different person than I thought they were, you know? But it's like, I
Yeah.
was always like, I'm going to try and, you know, I say a lot of weird things and I do a lot of weird stuff, but that's just kind of who I am. And, you know, it's probably not for everybody, and that's, I'm okay with that. But, you know, I trying to, you know, just be who you are is hard for people, I think. And it's been a growing process in my own, you know, journey on being on camera and being part of a brand and representing other brands. And it's, it's been a lot of fun, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. It's been, and it just continues to grow and build. And I hope that we can continue to, rise and develop the product. And I'm not really sure like where we're headed. I just know that like, we always go back to the saying from Fast and Furious, I live my life a quarter mile at a time.
Love it.
Because that's kind of how we are, and a lot of people like know where they're going or have goals and all that. And that's great. But like, I'm always been much more like, let's see let's see what tomorrow brings and go from there. And that's just how I live my life. And maybe not everybody lives their life that way, but getting caught up in the whole picture and the what's down the road, it kind of isn't something that is as important as let's just have fun today and make some cool content and see where it leads us.
Yeah. I mean, it's a cool mentality to have too. You're probably a little more present in the day to day. And sometimes I feel like when you overanalyze what the future looks like, you kind of slow down. You guys seem like you're just in this fast pace, like create, go, think outside the box. What's the next thing? Who's the next partnership with? Who's the next? That's just, I mean, it's gotta be fun. So I think it works for you guys, right? It's awesome.
Thanks, man. Yeah.
So the last couple questions, love to ask everyone that comes on here, and I'm sure you'll have some good ones. I always say book, but it can be podcast, just source of knowledge, whatever. For the audience, what would be like your number one book you would recommend?
Just because I just listened to it. It was an audiobook, but it was Matthew McConaughey's Green Lights. I don't know if you've read or heard that.
Yeah, I read that one at the end of the year. Fantastic.
And I'm a huge McConaughey fan, not just because of like the movies he's been in, but like just the way and it came across in the book, like he did a lot of things that, early on led to, one thing led to the next thing, and he was in movies all of a sudden. But then what I really respected about him as a person is like, he got into this, like getting every single offer was like a rom-com movie, and it was a rom-com movie, and he could do it and he could knock it out of the park. And then eventually got to the point where he's like, I'm more than just a rom-com guy. I've got a lot more skills and I can do a lot more like, fringe type of roles. And he like stopped doing work for like almost 2 years just to basically prove to people that like, give me the role that is going to be a challenge to me. And then like he went out and completely basically revamped his whole career, and like he's much more respected because of that. And I respect that, because it's like, one, it's easy to probably get into that cycle of doing all those rom-com roles, and then do what's more true to him and take time off and like figure out what it was. And there's just like really cool moments in that book that really rang true to me and rang true to like the type of person I want to be and the life I want to live, and being a good person, and also like working with really talented people. And I respect the hell out of Matthew McConaughey in that book. So if anybody hasn't read it already, I would recommend the audiobook, because you get to hear him.
Oh, I read it. I didn't get, I'm in audiobooks now, but I didn't do audiobook on that one. Bummer.
I don't do audiobooks, but like when I was like, Matthew McConaughey's going to read the book to me, I was like, dude, that guy, he's got all the swagger and all the, the Texas draw and everything. And he does all the voices. It was amazing.
That's fantastic. Yeah. That's such a great book. I mean, it's a great book for anyone who just, teaches you how to like look at confrontation and turn it around to be a positive. And, there's so many good takeaways from that book. So that's a great one. I appreciate that.
So that one. And then I'm also reading Creativity Inc. right now. And that's basically about the guys that started Pixar. And the struggle that comes with like, nobody was doing animated movies back when they were trying to do it. And it was like this, Hollywood didn't really embrace technology the way they do today. And they were like kind of paving the road on developing a concept that was unproven. And they, are who they are now, and they make great movies. And I think that, I learned a lot from that, and being able to, take things that like lessons that I learned from how they failed and ways that they succeeded, and try to like, be open to all that type of knowledge that I can get, just because I'm kind of in the same field.
Yeah, for sure.
Being creative.
Kind of like breaking through a whole new thing that people haven't done before.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay. I'll add that one to the list too. That's the one thing with this podcast. I have such a book backlog now that I got to catch up on.
Oh, I'm sure.
So many gems.
A lot of people read some great gems that I'm sure you're like, oh man, I got to read that.
I need to like publish a list of all the ones that you guys have all suggested. That'd probably be good content.
Okay.
The next one. So you guys obviously have a million things going all the time. You're obviously always pushing the needle. what do you use to track, your personal goals, your Buttery Bro business goals, and then really like what do you use to just accomplish daily tasks, whether it's just pen and paper, use an app, like what do you use to kind of just organize and get your shit done?
Well, just recently, like because I'm so connected on social media and I have so much like stimulation and distraction coming in all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if this answers your question, but like I suggest people go isolate yourself in nature.
Okay.
like I just recently did like a week long backpacking trip with a men's group in the Grand Canyon that my buddy Mike Cashew took me on, and it was so out of my comfort zone because I don't do that, you know.
Whoa.
I
Yeah.
don't I don't usually journal. I don't usually meditate because I'm like I've got all this stuff and media and things coming in so much that like to then completely like I left my phone. I didn't
Oh,
even know what
wow.
time it was, you know.
No
So
way.
when you can be alone with your thoughts and have zero distractions, you can really get in touch with like your soul, you know.
Sure. Oh, I
And
bet.
and there was one of the days where I everybody that was on the camp went and isolated themselves from everybody, and then they would eventually come and like bring you back into the camp.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
I learned so much just about me and myself, and like finally having this like no distraction to like get between me and my own thoughts, you know. So I just
Whoa.
sat and I wrote, and like they gave us a bunch of exercises to do. One of them was like write a poem, and I'm like, when the hell am I going to write a poem? Like, when was the last time I wrote a poem? I don't even know if I know how.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
like when
Haikus. What do you?
like when you don't have like a time or like, oh, I got like 30 minutes to write a poem. It's like you have all day. I'm out in nature and I have nowhere to be. And it's just like inspiration starts to come in those situations. And
Whoa.
all of a sudden I'm like, holy shit, I'm writing a poem, you know?
Yeah.
And it was like something like that. It was like, I feel like taking time to work on yourself and get away from all the stimulation that's coming in is one of the best things that I could do for myself personally, to then kind of realign with my own consciousness, really.
That's really cool.
So
Do you think you're going to continue doing that from time to time?
I want to. It's really hard to like dedicate the time, and it was actually like really scary for me to like take that much time off of work,
Oh, I
but
bet.
I could
How
see
many
how
days was it?
necessary. It was 7 days
Oh, wow.
living
That's
out
for
of a
you guys too.
backpack
That's a lot.
in the Grand Canyon. Yeah. And it was like, kept being like, Heber, I don't know. I think I'm going to cancel this trip, man. I don't know if it's a good time. We got this movie coming out. I got this documentary. We got all these shows piling up. We got this company we're starting. And it was like, when I finally cause at first I was going to go on the trip to support my buddy Mike because he just started this thing and I wanted to be there for him. And once the mindset shifted, like, do it for yourself, you know,
Yeah.
go do this and do it with your eyes wide open to what you can get out of it for yourself. And once I did that, it made all the difference. And I like look back at that trip now and I'm like, man, I'm so glad I took the time to just disconnect and unplug from everything to just be with my own self. And it was something that I learned that like, I need to do that more often. I need to like take time to be alone in nature and just write and breath work and be vulnerable with other men and talk about, you know, the challenges of life, you know?
Yeah. That's cool, man. That's really cool. I mean, we all move so fast, especially if you're trying to build things and create things. And yeah, I can only imagine. I always think I'm like, sometimes I feel like I'm burning out too, like doing too much. Sometimes you need just like
Yeah.
a reset. That's
Yeah.
fantastic. Even when you go
Can't
on
recommend it
vacation
enough.
sometimes and you travel somewhere, you're still like on your phone. You're still like answering
Exactly.
emails.
Like,
You're still taking calls.
yeah. And I don't think people realize how much of a benefit just being, you know, having zero schedule, having nothing coming in and nothing going out, just being with your own thoughts and with your own like basically getting in touch with yourself, you know, because it's really easy to lose touch with yourself in the modern world that we live in.
100%. That's really cool. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, that's some great advice.
Yeah.
And then the last question and the most important is how can people follow your journey? How can people get involved with the Buttery Bros, buy some merch, all that fun stuff? And I'll add all this to the show notes.
Okay. So you can find us on YouTube. If you search Buttery Bros, we've got, you know, 100 episodes now. You can
So sick.
we have a Patreon page where we do like more exclusive type of content. We just released a 3-part series called Proven, which I was talking about earlier in the show, that early documentary series that we wanted to create that we ended up producing and putting it on there. I'm on Instagram. My handle is @MarsMedia. You can find us on Buttery Bros on Instagram, and you can go to our website, butterybros.com. We have a newsletter sign up right now to like get updates on our movie and when it's coming out and all the news related to that. And I think that's pretty much everything.
Sweet. And I'll link all that stuff to the show notes so everyone listening can go and click on it and find you guys. Cool. And if you haven't checked your YouTube series out, everyone listening, you're gonna love it. It's sweet. I'm hooked. And every time I get a notification there's a new one out, I have to watch it while I eat lunch or whatever. I have to. It's awesome. We're so excited.
Thanks so much for watching, man. It's a lot of fun. I'm glad you're enjoying it.
100%. And hopefully when the world gets back to a little more normal and we're all out at events again, maybe we'll run into each other.
Absolutely. Let me know when you're going to be out and I'll run into you and we'll catch up.
Sweet, man. Yeah, that sounds great. All right. Well, Marston, thank you so much. Appreciate the time, man. I'm glad we got to finally do this. And
yeah, me too, man. Thank you. I had a good time talking to you.
Absolutely. And I'll definitely let you know when all the stuff's live, and I hope you have a great rest of your day, man.
You too, brother.
Awesome.
Talk to you later.